They say when you read more biology books, you get more cultured. But how do we know what to read when there's so many good books out there? Fortunately, I'm a voracious reader, and I've chosen the best books to turn you into a big-brained elitist. To join this elitist cabal of books, your literature must be novel, transformative, and addictive. But you don't have to take my word for it. At number 4, we have The Extended Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins' biggest contribution to society was accidentally creating the modern-day version of the meme. Yeah, seriously, he's the one responsible. The book cover of The Extended Selfish Gene was probably designed by a blind man. The book combines two of Richard Dawkins' previous works, The Extended Phenotype and The Selfish Gene. Despite the fact that The Selfish Gene was written in 1976, it still holds up pretty well. The book took the radical position that the gene is the central unit of selection. While we think we're important, we're actually survival machines. Pieces of meat that wrap around genes. When we die, our genes pass on to our progeny. They are immortal. From the perspective of the gene, you're just a piece of meat. Having children is incredibly stressful to our bodies. But the genes that trick us into loving our children have successfully propagated into all humans. That's right, your genes tricked you into loving a container of your future genes. And now those genes have become immortal. On the other hand, the gene for hemophilia ravaged European nobility. In this pedigree chart, all of those with red circles died early. Thus, this gene was not immortal, and most royalty today don't have to worry about this genetic problem. But it's not usually one gene that matters. Genes are usually interacting with each other. In other words, genes must cooperate in the container that is the human body, in the same way that rowers must cooperate with each other in the container that is a rowboat. At number 3, we have Into the Cool, written by Eric Schneider and Dorian Sagan. This book was an underground classic that I've read 3 times. The second law of thermodynamics states that a system tends towards its most statistically probable outcome. In other words, entropy increases over time, and it takes a lot of energy to reverse this process. This is why it's easy to mix cream into coffee and hard to mix cream out of coffee. Time's arrow is irreversible, which means at some point all life will cease to exist, which is why physicist parties have high entropy. Complex systems can only exist between low and high entropy states. In these complex systems, like humans and hurricanes, massively increase entropy in the system, as low entropy energy comes from the nuclear reactor that we call the sun. It moves through different organisms and different trophic layers, becoming increasingly high entropy. This is why there are always more plants than carnivores. Did you hear that, hippies? Humans are downstream of plants, and plants are downstream of nuclear energy. Ergo, humans are nuclear powered. At number 2, we have Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia. For anyone who wants to get into biohacking, I tell them to read this book first. The mortality rate, which we define as the number of deaths per 100,000 people in a given year, has barely budged. In the areas where we have made progress is due to vaccines and antibiotics. We're introduced to our current healthcare system, which is called Medicine 2.0. This involves spending most of our money to extend our lives for a few months when we're already almost dead. These last few months of life are often incredibly painful. Not only is Medicine 2.0 a huge waste of money, it's almost a form of medical torture. It's enough to make you want to blow up the entire healthcare system. Medicine 2.0 is good for trauma care. It's excellent at surgery and broken bones. But it's not very effective at treating the leading causes of death, which is why they are the leading causes of death. If you present to the hospital with dementia, there's very little doctors can do for you. Fortunately, we can take steps to prevent the top killers. Just like we can stop smoking to prevent lung cancer, and we can wear seatbelts to prevent car crash deaths. Medicine 3.0 uses science to prevent the leading causes of death and live a longer, healthier life. At number 1, we have The Emperor of All Maladies, written by Siddhartha this guy, a medical doctor and cancer researcher. This book won the Pulitzer Prize in 2011. before being turned into a documentary by Ken Burns. I would list all of his awards, but yeah, lower the bar, buddy. Like, seriously. The name cancer was first coined by Hippocrates, who thought it resembled a crab, which in Greek is the term karkinos. It was difficult to treat cancer, but a major breakthrough came with the discovery of chemotherapy. During World War II, the Germans accidentally bombed a ship containing mustard gas. After exposure to the gas, many patients came to the hospital with weird symptoms. But the patients didn't know what was wrong with them because the Allies didn't want the Germans to know that they had chemical weapons. The doctors eventually realized that the substance stopped patients' cells from dividing, and they eventually realized that this could be used to stop cancer cells from dividing. Chemotherapy might not be very fun, but the doctors could recommend a stress reliever for it, like cigarettes. Cigarettes were even thought to be great for weight loss, but there would be a backlash when people realized that cigarettes cause a lot of cancer. Fortunately, doctors would learn from this and never prescribe a human anything harmful ever again. Some of the biggest advances in cancer fighting involve immunotherapy, where we use the body's own immune system to attack cancer. But most of our success in the war on cancer has come from prevention. The invention of the refrigerator is thought to have reduced the incidence of stomach cancer, and the reduction in smoking has significantly reduced lung cancer. Whereas, it's very difficult to prevent pancreatic cancer, and the death rate has barely budged. When it comes to cancer, for the most part, prevention is the cure. I've put links below to make it easier to buy these books. Didn't see your favorite book? Let me know in the comments. And remember to like and subscribe to support me.